Rahubat. This is part 2 of the Society of American Indians in 1914, Pan-Indianism, and we're going to continue with the dialogue about the Society of American Indians. Before I get into it, I want to show you a video. This video was done 9 years ago. It says the early 1900s. I'll play a little bit of this. Okay, the video was done by, the channel's name is T-Bro. Okay, I want to give him his credit on the video. And then from there, we'll go into the Society of American Indians.
Whites only signs appeared in restaurants, hotels, and bathrooms. In the South, white politicians enacted brutal legislation known as Jim Crow laws. These laws legally established a segregated society and informally turned a blind eye to white violence, particularly lynchings against African Americans.
In the United States, we had a situation in the 1890s where over 200 African Americans were being lynched every year in the Deep South, where African Americans who had, at least for black men, had won the right to vote, lost it in the 1890s and the turn of the century with the imposition of state constitutions throughout the region. You had the imposition of racial segregation in public accommodations, so that states and city councils passed laws, ridiculous restrictions on interaction between blacks and whites. The city of Birmingham.
Now, this is where I want to stop. Hold on, let's go in.
Alabama passed.
Now, if you can look on this train, right? Let's go back a little bit. You see that says Ohio, right? On the train, it says Ohio, okay? I want you to pay attention to that. Or keep that in mind, I should say.
The city of Birmingham, Alabama passed a local ordinance making it illegal for blacks and whites to play checkers together.
Jim Crow, as many people know, was a minstrel character. And minstrelsy was very, very popular, going all the way back to the Jacksonian era. Whites liked to dress up as blacks, and they liked to portray an African-American character who was simple and comedic and childlike. Racial segregation was always a form of white control, a form of reminder that whites had the power to exclude or deny. And therefore, Jim Crow, this minstrel character, this caricature of African Americans, seemed appropriate as an image to characterize this system of racial domination.
Let's go further in. All right, we'll arrive at the breakdown of the Society of American Indians. As I showed you, that was a video based on the 1900s and the ill treatment of Black Americans at that time. The Society of American Indians was established in 1911 as far as formation, and really kicked off in 1914. Okay, it was the first national American Indian rights organization run by and for American Indians. Okay, so when we see American Indians here, does that cover the Black Indian and the Red Indian? Okay, today, quote unquote, Black Indians are saying Black, African American, Negro, and colored is a misnomer, and I don't understand why Indian isn't a misnomer, but let's continue on. The society pioneered 20th century Pan-Indianism. This society created Pan-Indianism, the movement promoting unity among American Indians regardless of tribal affiliation. So the question with that is there any Black Indians or part of this society? Okay, and I'm talking about the Black Indians with woolly hair. We're talking about the Cherokees, the Choctaws, the Creeks, the Seminoles, the Chickasaw, what have you. The society was a forum for a new generation of American Indian leaders known as Red Progressives. Red Progressives. Prominent professionals from the fields of medicine, nursing, law, government, education, anthropology, and ministry. They shared the enthusiasm and faith of progressive era white reformers in the inevitability of progress through education and governmental action. They shared the enthusiasm and faith of progressive era white reformers in the inevitability of progress through education and governmental action. The society met at academic institutions, maintained a Washington, D.C. headquarters, conducted annual conferences, and published a quarterly journal of American Indian literature by American Indian authors. The society was one of the first proponents of an American Indian Day. Okay. It was at the forefront of the fight for Indian citizenship and opening the U.S. Court of Claims to all tribes and bands in the United States. The Indian Citizenship Law, signed on June 2nd, 1924, was a major achievement for the society. The society anticipated by decades the establishment of a federal Indian Claims Commission in 1946 to hear claims of Indian tribes against the United States. In 1978, such cases were transferred to the U.S. Court of Claims. The Society of American Indians was the forerunner of modern organizations such as the National Congress of American Indians. Okay, now in the early 1900s, okay, I just showed you a video as far as what was going on with the black people in the South, okay? The Indians that the black people are claiming they come from the South, all right? In the early 1900s, three prominent American Indians, Dr. Charles Eastman, his brother Reverend John Eastman, and Reverend Sherman Coolidge, first discussed organizing a Pan-Indian or intertribal Indian rights organization, okay? However, they concluded the time was not yet right to broadly advance the idea, believing such a movement would not be understood either by our own people or the American people in general, okay? So at the time that these Indians got together, they wanted to advance a Pan-Indian intertribal rights organization, but felt at that time their people wouldn't get it and the American people wouldn't get it, okay? In 1903, Coolidge, let's go back. Would not be understood either by our own people or the American people in general, present a grave danger of arousing the antagonism of the Bureau and compromise the many progressively oriented Indians affiliated with government service and programs, okay? So these are the people that started the American Indian movement, okay? The first meeting in Columbus, Ohio. I told you to look at that train, right? And it's interesting that that train had Ohio on it because this is where the first meeting was, okay? And you see in the blue highlights, and these are the Indians representing at Ohio State University in 1911, okay? Dr. Arthur Caswell Parker, Lord Cornelius Kellogg, okay? You got a temporary executive committee. Okay. Who's representing here? We got the Chippewa, Blackfoot, the Osage, the Chickasaw and the Cherokee, the Potawatomi, the Tuscarora, Winnebago, okay, the Chippewa, the Klamath, Onondaga, okay. They are here representing the Society of American Indians, okay. Now here's a picture of who represented in the Society of American Indians, okay. Now I'm sorry, man, these people are not black people. But the question is, how are they getting away with claiming Indian when the black Indians are the original Indians? Shouldn't there be progressive movements, okay, by black Indians advocating for rights, okay, and the treaties to be respected, right? Okay. And I'm sorry to say there hasn't been an American Indian movement by black people in America, right? Now, there are black Indian chiefs, male and females in America who represent some of these tribes, but as far as a progressive American Indian movement, okay, we do not see that from our people. You would think black Indians, with the way that they're protesting today, okay, would have been there. Red progressives, okay? You got Dennison Wheelock, you got Chauncey Yellow Robe, Angel Decora, Gertrude Simmons Bonin, Mary Louise Botenaw Baldwin, John Napoleon Brenton Hewitt, okay? Rosala Flesh, Charles R. Doxson. The early course of the society was influenced by many factors. Pan-Indianism developed during the period when modern social science came of age, and sociologists and anthropologists helped define the common ground of race. Reformers of the bully progressive era were inveterate founders of organizations, translating ideas into organizations and organizations into action. Problems existed to be solved, and the democratic promise existed to be fulfilled. Arthur C. Parker, okay, an anthropologist, visioned the old council fire composed of American Indian men and women from all tribes of the United States. He believed that the society should adopt an organizational format like that of Friends of Indians organizations, meet at an academic institutions rather than on reservations, maintain a Washington headquarters, publish a quarterly journal, conduct annual conferences, and be a vehicle for the expression of Pan-Indian identity. Christianity and Freemasonry play crucial roles in the society, okay? Freemasonry exercised an important influence on the development of Pan-Indianism in the 1920s. Almost every male Indian involved in the society was an active Freemason. Okay. What Freemason organization were these Indians a part of? Okay. Almost every male involved in the society was an active Freemason. Arthur C. Parker, who used both his American and his Seneca name, Gawasowane, wrote a pamphlet on American Indian Masonry, published in 1919 by the Buffalo Consistory. Parker wrote of Masonry's implicit link with American Indians and noted that the Iroquois, especially the Senecas, were inherent Freemasons. He shared the view of his great uncle Eli S. Parker, the first American Indian Commissioner of Indian Affairs, that Masonry offered upward mobility in the white world and will preserve the memory of the Indian if my race shall disappear from this continent. Okay, you got the Bureau of Indian Affairs, right? So we see in Masonry is the backdrop of this American Indian society, okay? But yet and still, we see no Black Indians a part of this progressive movement, okay? Now, I showed you this picture before. This is 1915. You dig me? This is 1915. There are no Black Indians in this picture. And why is that? Okay? Why is that? So we know these are Freemasons, right? They're not just Indians, but they're Freemasons. So what does Freemasonry have with the culture and heritage of the tribes of the original Black Indians in America? Okay, some years later, you have the Red Powder movement. 50 years later, 1960s to the 1970s, about the same time that Blacks is dealing with civil rights. Okay. The Relocation Act of 1956 resulted in as many as 750,000 American Indians migrating to cities during the period time from 1950 to 1980. Okay? You got the American Indian movement. At the forefront of the Red Power movement was American Indian Movement, AIM, which was founded in 1968 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Its members belonged to and represented mainly urban Indian communities, and its leaders were young and militant. Like the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets, or the Barrettes, AIM was initially organized to work for Indian civil rights in cities. Its members monitored law enforcement practices and worked to highlight and prevent police harassment and brutality. Okay? The men and women who started this organization were prisoners in Alcatraz. All right. But got their progressive movement ideas from the Black Panther Party. Here's another picture of some of the members of the Society of American Indians here. Right? All right, let's go into the American Indian Freemasonry, 1919, by Arthur C. Parker. Okay. You see that, right? Okay. All right, I'm not going to pronounce those names right there. Okay. 3 friends who have done most to lead me on the journey where I have received more light in Masonry, and whose brotherly love and affection have demonstrated to many a wayfarer the potency of the Masonic tie. This account of American Indian Freemasonry is dedicated by their friend Gawa Sawane. Okay. Then he leads with this. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. Okay. To the Iroquois, beautiful thy meditations in thy consecrated forest, fragrant in their odorous incense, when thou, groping in the darkness, thou wert lifted up and strengthened in thy earnest firm endeavor, nearer drawn to one great spirit in thy ardor of devotion. Okay. It's Indian Masonry. Are black people a part of these American Indian Masons? Okay. And this is the breakdown of their. How did American Indian Freemasonry originate? Among many of the Indian tribes, there were ceremonial societies and fraternities that exercised a considerable influence. The Jesuits, in their missionary tours among the Hurons early in the 17th century, made note of the confraternities among the tribes of Canada. In later years, the publications of several learned societies and institutions have given us the records of ethnologists and anthropologists, by which we learn of the very great number of native societies, associations, and fraternities. We cannot mention them all, but it would be a mistake not to call attention to the fraternities of the Zuni and other Pueblo-dwelling peoples. These had elaborate lodge rooms or kivas, and their altars were decorated and dedicated to the powers of nature. Okay. These had elaborate lodge rooms or kivas, and their altars were decorated, and dedicated to the powers of nature. They taught their initiates the philosophies of their respective cults and exacted certain promises and obligations. Among the Pawnees were a number of important societies, one of the most important being the Hako. The Navajos had their cults, the Ojibwe of the north had their Midday will win. Likewise, the Iroquois had and still have their Honochinoga, their Ha-Didos, and their Society of Charm Holders, and many others. The Indians in some instances drew moral lessons and analogies from the art of building their longhouses and other dwellings, but for the most part their symbolism was drawn from the study of the temple of nature. They knew of no Hebrew legends or records, and the names of Zerubbabel, Solomon, Hiram of Tyre, or of Aaron were strange to them. On the other hand, there were societies that used sacred words, some of which might be mentioned only at low breath, and some never except within the lodge. Because of the secrecy and sacredness of the meaning of some words, they lost their meaning and were used only because they were ancient and were supposed to be of magical value. There were many lost words, and in some instances, certain portions of the rituals were not intelligible because nearly every word was a portion of a lost ritualistic language. What was the red man's religious life? Okay. Sentinel of the Society of False Faces. The False Face Company is one of the most spectacular of the Iroquois. All right. Promise of power. Indian Masonic symbols. It says forms of ceremonial and decorative brooches or brooches of silver used by the Seneca Indians. A tall, bronze-skinned guy led the way over an ice-rooted road. The journey from the mysterious east had commenced. Following the guide in single file were four, and there were four. It was the land of the Senecas, the most powerful confederates of the Six Nations of the Iroquois. To this land in the valley of the Cattaraugus had journeyed the commander-in-chief of Buffalo Consistory and 3 other members of the ancient accepted Scottish rite of Masonry. And now they were on their way back to the city that rises where the ancient Seneca town of We or Way once had its site. These pale-faced members of the race that came and possessed the red man's land had been adopted brothers and initiated into the highest rites of the Senecas. Little had been told. The door has only been held ajar. The slightest space and no secrets have been revealed. There were feather wands and deerskins, but no purple robes or crowns. Yet, who shall say that the Senecas have not the thread of the legend? Yet, who shall say that the Senecas have not the thread of the legend of Osiris, or that they have not an inherent Freemasonry? Okay. Egyptian diagram of the rising Osiris. The 3 initiates in the ancient guards of the mystic potence. Okay. So that's Indian Masonry by Arthur C. Parker. All right. The 1920s, you also have the Moorish Science Temple movement going on. All right. If you want to understand the movement, I suggest reading the Circle 7 Quran. Okay. It's a proclamation of the Moorish Science Temple of America. They say Noble Drew Ali was a Cherokee from North Carolina. All right. Noble Drew Ali was the founder and prophet of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the first mass religious community in the history of American Islam and the Black nationalist model for the Nation of Islam. He was born Timothy Drew on January 8, 1886, to parents who were ex-slaves in North Carolina. His earliest followers believed that he was an orphan for most of his childhood. and was raised by the Cherokee Indians. Inspired by the political and cultural creativity of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association and the Great Migration of Black Southerners to northern cities, Noble Drew Ali set up his headquarters in Chicago in 1923 and claimed to be the second prophet of Islam. His esoteric spiritual philosophy was constructed from Islamic, Christian, and Freemasonic sources. The Moorish Americans wore turbans and fezzes. They replaced their names from slavery with El or Bey. They created their own nationality cards and flag, and they called themselves olive-skinned Asiatics, descendants of Morocco instead of Negroes or colored people. Okay. To support his case for a Moorish American identity, he emphasized two important points. First, Black Americans were really Asiatics, the descendants of Jesus, and second, the destiny of Western civilization was linked to the rise of the Asiatic nations, Asians, Africans, Native Americans, and African Americans. Okay, that's Noble Drew Ali. Okay, this is the prophet Nathaniel, the Rasul, in the Fahami Temple movement. Freemasonry is definitely linked to ancient Egypt. In fact, okay, Egypt is the origin. The concerns of the Fahami was religion, God, language, country, civilization, culture, ancestors, race consciousness, and soul. Let's look at the start of the Fahami Temple. It's Nathaniel Nathaniel Johnson, okay? In the year 1919, in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, he founded the Fahami Temple. All right, this is going on in 1919. The question is, why aren't they claiming themselves to be American Indians? Right? Why aren't they claiming themselves to be American Indians? Here you have Prince Hall, American abolitionist and leader in the free black community in Boston. He founded the Prince Hall Freemasonry and lobbied for education rights for African American children. He was also active in the Back to Africa movement. Okay. He was born in 1735 and 1738. Why didn't he claim Indian? Right? In 1738 he was born. All right, why didn't he claim to be Indian? Now check this out. This is Joseph Brant, okay, born 1743, died 1807. Joseph Brant was one of the most famous and renowned Native American chiefs in the 18th century, born in 1743 in what is now Ohio. He served with distinction during the French and Indian War, okay? He attended the university that would become Dartmouth as a teen, okay? When the American Revolution broke out, Brant immediately allied with the British again, reading the writing on the wall that if America won, it would expand west and push his tribes and other like it off of their lands. He was elected war chief of the Six Nation Indians and went to England to secure the alliance with the British Empire. It was there that he was initiated into Freemasonry. There is debate over what lodge he was initiated into, but the year and month was April 1776, and King George III presented him with his Masonic apron. He became the first master of Mohawk Village Lodge number 11. Okay. But check this out, right? At the same exact time, 1735 to 38 to 1807, we got Prince Hall advocating for the Africans in Masonry, and also was given a charter from the British. Okay. He's in Boston. Isn't that interesting? So with that being said, the question is, are the Black Indians truly from America? Okay, and why aren't they representing the Society of American Indians instead of the Red Indians? Okay, there were also Masons. And who is truly copying who, right? And I want to leave y'all with this. And this is what Dane Conaway hit us with. 98% of African Americans are in fact Native Indians in our old millions. Okay, he doesn't mention any Masonry in here. And this information right here is not true. It is not accurate at all. Okay. I know y'all want to look at the pictures and say, there we are. Okay. The turban was a style of head covering favored by many of the Southeast Indian tribes who were located in the states of Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Legendary Talkat said the Indians didn't wear turbans, the Moors did, right? Now, the dude on the left is a Nuwaubian, that's my boy, Noble Pa, right? And I wonder if Dane Conaway knows his brother personally. He's from Louisiana. I've had a lot of dialogue with his brother over the years. Okay. Turbans. Who's really keeping up with the traditions? Okay, if American Indians wore turbans, right? And so they was asked, how are the Moors and the Indians connected? Well, shit, I guess by this goddamn turban, right? (1790) 1843, okay. Prince Hall fits into this, okay. You got your Joseph Brant. You see that? You see that on his head? Look like the same type of fez Noble Drew Ali got on. what is the society of Black Indians today, and what's gonna crack off aside from staring at pictures all damn day. Okay, we need some information to go along with culture, heritage, ancestors, God, religion, and language. All right, American history. Peace.